what we have is a scary time in the game because of all the reasons I just explained. We have a delayed major patch, our first major patch delayed all the way to the end during a time when there's not a lot going on other than teasers, and it's de-incentivized to get gear. We have a lot of problems right now. Okay, I think we should talk about the state of the game. In my personal opinion, I think we're at a kind of scary time in the game. I think right now is the highest likelihood we have of a bunch of people quitting the game. And I'm going to break down the reasons why for you because I think it's a pretty realistic thing that could happen. So at the moment, there is no reason to push Paragon difficulty levels. We are in Hell 4. Hell 5 is going to be coming at 240 Paragon level, meaning as soon as we hit Hell 5, the amount of gear that we're going to have available is going to skyrocket in terms of performance. This means a couple things. This means that if you are farming tons and tons of triple drops, like these here, now these are going to be replaced probably by double drops in Hell 5. So that feels kind of bad because we know we're time gated. That also means that because of the way the server Paragon level works, if I wanted to be like world's first Hell 5, if I wanted to play 15 hours a day right now, the grind Paragon experience, which is not the way the game's incentivized, and we'll talk about that in a moment, then it's literally factually not possible. If I wanted to make that content and push, I cannot do that. That option is taken away from me due to the fact if you go, I think it's like 14 Paragon levels above the server level, you'll get 0% experience and you can literally no longer push at all. Hard stop. So because of that, we are time gated. This game is time gated to be able to get to Hell 5, and this gear will be replaced. The other part of it is if you actually are farming set pieces of gear right now, there's another doubly disappointing part of this, which is that there's no essence transfer or anything for the set pieces. I've complained about this many times before, where the sets are really the worst part of the game, trying to get the set pieces, but it gets even worse than that, okay? Because the reserve pieces, if I go and I transfer this reserve piece and I become a barbarian, this intelligence stat becomes strength because barbarian uses strength, and then I can essence transfer onto this and everything's all good and we just continue with our build, okay, no problem. But if I switch from necromancer or wizard to barbarian, the pieces of gear I have here go from fortitude intelligence to fortitude strength, but it becomes reserve pieces of gear, okay? It no longer is actually this set piece itself, meaning it becomes worthless other than the stats, and what I actually have to do is go refarm this actual set piece of gear. This means two things. This, number one, means that if you're a necromancer or a wizard, once you get to in-game and you farm a full set and you're talking triple rows and all that and you're in Hell 5, you're not really going to be transferring. Because if you are transferring from one class to another, you're almost restarting the game. A large part of the hours in this game is getting those triple stat rows and the big daddy rows with the set pieces, because the set pieces are a huge opportunity to climb combat rating. But let's actually talk about combat rating in a moment and what it actually means. So combat rating in the game, if we talk about combat rating, here's my combat rating, 4691. Now, if we actually look at my placement on the leaderboards with me being extremely lazy, you're going to notice I'm number 11 because of my combat rating, right? So if you go up and you look at number 1, and this person's resonance is 4,500, but for the sake of the actual discussion here, let's not worry too much about the resonance. Let's just assume we're the same resonance there. But this person has, if we look at the combat rating, almost 5,600 combat rating, okay? Which means they're going to be able to go higher in the combat rifts, and they're going to be able to do better of the heliquaries as well. So if you go to heliquaries, that means this person is going to be able to do one more of the heliquary bosses, get a little bit higher of the scoria, etc. So that's what that person gets. And in order to actually get there, because I didn't show you the set pieces here, this person had to get triple row, triple row, triple row, triple row. These are all set pieces. So we have a lot of triple rows here on these set pieces, okay? Meaning on top of all the money spent, etc., this person also has grinded maybe like 100 hours, 200, we're talking a lot of hours to get these pieces. And all these triple rows are going to be replaced basically by double rows off of Hell 5. So all this progress is almost going to be wiped out just by the fact the next Hell difficulty is coming, okay? On top of it, if this person wanted to go barbarian or something, they're screwed. Because what's going to happen is all this entire set that they just farmed out is going to become worthless, because it's just going to become random stat chunks for reserve pieces and not have the set effect if they wanted to go strength. This means that the strength classes and the intelligence classes are basically forever separated once we get into the end game, because if you spend hundreds of hours farming the gear, you're not going to want to start over. Now, Paragon does tie to your gear, but that's part of the reason it's not really important to farm Paragon, because you're only going to be able to get a certain amount of Paragon level higher. We already know there's a cap. That person was 198. They were 8 Paragon levels above the server, okay? Since there's a cap on how high you can get, there's a cap on how much increased combat rating you're going to be able to get from the gear. Your gear's only going to be able to be slightly higher, and it's not enough to matter. Maybe it's enough to matter on the leaderboard. So you might be sitting here thinking, okay, DM, well, you're saying all this stuff, but he is number 1 on the leaderboard, so it does matter, doesn't it? Okay, well, let's go look what he actually got for all of that effort, time, etc. He got 10,000 more gold than me. I'm rank 11. I've done basically nothing. 10,000 more gold than me and 100 more healths. Now, you look in the mirror and you tell me if that is worth hundreds of hours of triple stat farming. Is that worth the money spent? Is that worth min-maxing your builds and all this stuff while waiting on Hell 5 to wipe out basically the majority of that progress? Is that worth that? It's a resounding no. Now, where it might actually be worth it is if we go to party at the moment and we look at this, but this is another problem, which is that currently the standings, these crystals are worth 4,000 scraps, meaning rank 1 is worth 800,000 scraps worth of material before we even talk about the hilts, okay? 800,000 scraps worth of these crystals. The problem is one person can be rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. People can lock out multiple spots by just having one different person rotate throughout the party and have essentially the largest well on your server lock out all of these spots forever by just playing 20 minutes before the server closes their spots. So that is the reward that they get, which is not so much making it way, way, way better for themselves as locking out other people. Okay, so keep that in mind, because that in and of itself is another reason not to worry about your combat rating or your stats and all this shit, because if you're going for if you're not in the top and you don't have the top 3 wells on your server all part, there's no reason to do this. Basically, like this is a waste of time. So what we have is effectively a moment in the game that I think is quite scary, because what we have is no reason to farm, because we're waiting on 240 Paragon for the next tier of gear. If we farm right now, it's going to be replaced by the in-game difficulty that's coming shortly. There's no reason to farm Paragon levels, because you can only be a certain amount of Paragon levels higher anyway. So it's factually easier to farm 0 Paragon right now, wait until the server's like 14 levels from 240, then grind it all, because the cap will be the same then for me as it is for everyone else who's been grinding the whole time. The only difference is in the amount of time it's going to take to get there. It will be faster to literally not play the game. This is why we had people quitting the game in the beginning, because of the way the server Paragon level system works. You can see the writing on the wall. It's quite disappointing. And it's also, in my particular opinion, going to make the game right now extremely scary, because there's not a reason to play, because we're waiting on Hell 5, and it's the longest gap of time between difficulties. But there's another problem, which is in the patch notes. The patch notes major update has been pushed away. So what we have is a scary time in the game because of all the reasons I just explained. We have a delayed major patch, our first major patch delayed all the way to the end during a time when there's not a lot going on other than teasers, and it's de-incentivized to get gear. We have a lot of problems right now, basically. And so in my personal opinion, while I've liked the updates, I actually quite like the updates we've gotten so far. So my feedback to Blizzard's been, you guys are slowly addressing the correct things. Like you guys have fixed a little bit of the monetization by adding some more free-to-play legendary crests. Doesn't fix all the problems, but at least they're willing to address it and look at it. The reserve gear can now be essence transferred, okay? They're adding the stuff like the cosmetic wings that we asked for. They're slowly, treasure goblins can drop legendaries. Dungeons can now be ran with 2 people. They added an extra chest to drop more green gear, etc. So they are actually looking at the feedback that people are saying and addressing it. I'm not so much worried about them addressing feedback as I'm worried about what it is that they are developing as new creation for content, because there's a lot of pressure on this major update upcoming. I feel that people getting stressed right now and bored in the game right now because there is this kind of gap of time of stuff to do. The Rite of the Exile is probably the most exciting part of the game because it mixes it up once a week. You get to go fight in your tribe become, an Immortal, or you get to try to defend the Immortal, and that's fun. You get the drama around it and all that, which is kind of exciting. Now I kind of understand why they wanted the social aspect of the game, because it feels like the social aspect of the game is almost the driving force behind why to be strong, just to be stronger than the guy next to you so you can try to become Immortal. And maybe that's the point of the game. And maybe that's, if you like that sort of thing, maybe you're not feeling the way I am right now, where you feel like it's a little bit stagnant. But what I'm not understanding is when we have good events like this Fractured Plane and they take it away. So this is leaving in the 14th, and we have an opportunity with things like this in the game to take very obvious concepts that people like and apply them. All we need for this is a leaderboard of a speed run time, so people can try to speed run through it. And make it repeatable, so we can just repeat and try to speed run through it and do it faster and faster and faster, just for bragging rights if you want. We need a hit indicator, so it says how many times you've been hit total in all 15 levels, etc., so people can try to do like no hit runs, etc. I think what we need is giving the players the tools to create some sandbox opportunities to make the game into something that they want it to be able to have different types of content. It might just sound like a bunch of words and not actually giving you any explicit details, so I'm going to say this. Stop running events at the same time as everything else. Why is the Echo of the Immortal, that Gorgoroth event, as well as the normal PvP Battleground and Vault Defense all the same hour? Can you explain that to me? Why is that in the game? So you have to choose what you want to do. That's a very poor concept. That also means that if one person it just works always during that hour, they just missed out on every fucking event for the rest of their life. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think we're kind of dropping the ball with the events. And the problem is, in mobile games, events are basically the bloodline of the game, because the way mobile games work is typically it's sort of like this, what we have now, where there's a goalpost that gets moved in mobile games, and that's what the hell difficulty is, etc. But the mobile games keep you rejuvenated by constantly mixing up the style of gameplay. Every Wednesday running the Fractured Plane for 20 minutes is not enough of a mix-up for that to be the only event and only thing happening right now. I understand we're going to have the Miss update, in some kind of maybe horde defense mode or something that we don't have, but we don't actually know what's coming in the next update. And that update is coming like the 14th, so 2 weeks into it. So I'm getting a little worried that, in my personal opinion, the events are not going to be enough to hold everyone's interest. It's not enough to hold my interest, if I'm being honest. The events need to be better. The Fractured Plane was the best one, and I liked the gore. In fact, my feedback to them about the open world event was that it's good. I like this event. It was fire. And I did actually like the event. But the problem is it shows concepts that are great, but then poorly executed, like with the time zone. Plus, when you're killing the monsters, they have like 5 monsters spawn in before the boss. It is pretty lame. When you have a full server show up, load that bitch up. Just put a ton of monsters in there, man. Just let people grind away. Put more orange elites than normal. Make it exciting. You guys don't monetize legendary drops at all. Literally at all. So why do you care? Like, just go there and just stack a bunch of just stack a fuckload of orange minions in the event and have it be like, the party had dropping experience in RuneScape back in the day, where it's like, oh, there's an admin in the game. He's just dropping free items for people. Like, make it an event that people talk about. Okay, there's your free advertising. Give me something up here to be like, holy shit, they actually did something awesome. Because it's hard for me to look at an event that I like the Fractured Plane, and be like, holy shit, it's awesome, for 20 minutes a week. And it's being removed. And there's no leaderboard. And we don't get to pick the legendary. Do you see where I'm coming with this? So I feel like we're playing a game of almost with this game, where it's like, oh, that's a really cool event. It was almost well done. Oh, I like the DPS chart on the Gorgoroth, overworld boss. I really like that. Almost well done, because now we know that chart exists. And please, for the love of God, put that in things like Helicory bosses, etc. There seems to be some very obvious decisions in my mind that have not been made. That's where I'm at with the game. So the state of the game for me is right now, it's kind of dry. I'm going to be honest, it's kind of dry. And we have we have some worrying to do because we have this gap of time before the next major update. We know we have these events coming along. I guess that's what's already planned for season 14, but we know the major update that we don't know what's coming is pushed back, and that's the first major update. So there's a lot of pressure on this upcoming major update, in my personal opinion, because I think, in honesty, it really needs to be a banger. I think people are starting to get bored. I think the 90-day gap between Hell 4 and Hell 5 is showing that. I think the fact that the essence transfer from intelligence to strength is very discouraging to even class change, considering how long the set items take to farm. And I think we need to address these issues if we want players to continue to have retention in our game.